Hello and welcome. This is the SimSN Friday show. Almost, as this is the fill-in show. I promised not to go for 3 hours or whatever it is the last time I hosted a fill-in for Pierce. But again, it is Alex. Filling in for Pierce, who my understanding is currently being booked in Portland because he's involved in some sort of illegal poker game thing with Chauncey Billups. I don't know. I don't stay too plugged into the news, but it's cool that he got to meet Chauncey Billups. So we'll have to talk to him when he gets back. So this is the sort of the interview show. Get to meet people from the sim community. Today we have with us Jedibob. Does that work, Jedibob? Jedibob? All
Jedibob5,
right,
yeah.
all right, cool. So Jedibob, and you may know him from many different aspects of the sim, from being a coach to being involved with some of the putting stuff together, I'll call it. But we'll go ahead and dive into that. So the
A little
first
bit, a little
question, of
bit.
course, is how did you find the sim community in the first place?
Yeah, Kirby found me messaging on the Football Coach College Dynasty Discord. Uh I was looking for some other type of like sim game there. And he picked up the post there and he was like, "Hey, we've got this server, we do this sim over here, multiplayer with everyone. You want to check it out?" And it's like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I joined in. It was right after the transfer portal period, so I was stuck with a team without really being able to do anything in the off season, and you know how the AI recruits, but rebuilding. A
Yeah, yeah. I'm a little bit
few months later, I
curious.
reached out to Bingo for the Saints.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So I'm a little bit curious as somebody. So my experience with Nebraska joining a team at the beginning of the sim was not necessarily rebuilding, but sort of reshaping. So the
Retooling.
way, yeah, I suppose, or just like I suppose re is kind of the wrong thing to say because everything was happening for the first time, but like the original Nebraska roster was very highly rated compared to the peers. Like it should have been
Hmm.
successful. It was the worst team, like the worst offense, bar none, out of all the power football teams. And then the highly rated players went away, and other players came in, that we recruited. We had like a good recruiting class and stuff, but navigate. It wasn't so much a rebuild, so much of it was like me figuring out what I wanted. So I'm a little bit curious from your experience with Michigan State, which is a little bit different from the NFL, where you're only able to change the roster so much a
Yeah.
piece at a time. What that experience is like, both jumping in after the transfer portal and then trying to figure out that first season, and then planning
Yeah.
and trying to figure out some kind of a strategy after that.
Yeah. When you're kind of first joining in, especially in college, where, as you said, you only change so much of the roster, you kind of just have to work with what you got, and you have to find what you have that works. And looking at Michigan State, we had a C+ quarterback in Herman Hunter, and we had like a B and a B- running back. So it's like, okay, let's focus on the ground game. Um, and initially I was going to go pistol, but I kind of psyched myself into choosing like verticals instead, which was a mistake because Herman Hunter was also a shotgun affinity. So had to kind of retool that to focus more on the shotgun formations that verticals had. But um, it was mostly just a matter of, okay, let's look at what we have and see what we can make out of that. And then in recruiting, it's kind of targeting like, okay, what would be cool to do going forward? What could we possibly morph into a little bit? And when I did my create recruit, it was Aaron Thomas, who turned out to be a 5-star speed running back. Um, so it's like, okay, I got this 5-star running back. Now let's see. It seems like we're going to stay focused on the ground game, or at least something relatively balanced, not going air raid. But then I looked at like the schema bonuses for every archetype and kind of evaluated what I had. And what looked good to me was its spread option had a speed running back bonus, and it was you could make it very run heavy or kind of too little more pass if you wanted to. So I was like, okay, that sounds fun. Maybe we do that. So I kind of started building towards a recruiting speed option or spread option, and then in the portal, I landed a 4-star uh, mobile quarterback, a dual threat. And I
Oh,
also pulled in a transfer dual threat, Wilfredo Neri. So yeah, it was kind of just working with what I had and kind of what I was fortunate to land in that first cycle is kind of, you got to look at your key players and decide what's best around them. And kind of similar on the defense. The best player last year on the defensive side at Michigan State was a defensive tackle, Jeffrey Dorsch, and he was a pass rusher defensive tackle. So look, okay, what suits pass rusher defensive tackles, and that's how I kind of settled on the speed scheme. And I'm kind of still trying just building around speed scheme. I've never really been that knowledgeable about defenses. I mean, never really that knowledgeable about offenses either. I've never worked as a coach or anything. Hadn't actually played football personally since like 8th grade. But as far as like a fan and outside observer, I understand offense a little more than defense. So I'm just kind of sticking with speed there and just kind of trying to build around that. But yeah, just kind of taking what I have and kind of trying to build around that and being able to, you know, guide it towards something more successful because you can't really just transform the entire thing overnight or even in one season.
right. And it just occurred to me, you especially cannot transfer it overnight when your 4-star transfer scrambling QB gets stolen by an FCS school in Idaho. So,
I had a backup. Also, was it that the didn't you steal the 2-star walk on that boomed? It was like a 2-star
uh,
walk on that boomed to a B, right? Or
I
3-star
ended
walk on
up
that boomed?
I ended up inheriting a sophomore defensive end who's already an A.
Oh wow.
But I think there's a school out on the East Coast who got that 2-star that boomed uh, in a
Yeah,
crazy
I
way.
mean,
So
I
it's really hard.
I did get a
Yeah,
backup plan with Wilfredo Neri, who was out of Army, and he was a B plus as a junior. So
that's
it
better.
kind of worked out.
So just so you know, I don't think over the entirety the game the results haven't published. I haven't seen yet, but I'm willing to bet that like cumulatively, David Dean does not pass for 1,000 yards this season, even at the FCS level, because we beat the crap out of a directional school. And then we playing 2 Ivies. In the first Ivy, he didn't break, I think, 50 yards passing. So like he's kind of a work in progress. I think he found his level definitely at
He's
Idaho
got
State.
plenty of room to grow, though. I mean, if you got a B star, like you got a B freshman, that's going to be a stud. Like pretty much, like
He could
the
always.
absolute floor by graduation is A minus, probably just A.
I mean, they said the same thing about Jamal Lord, and you have to see where that ended up. I am a little bit curious. You know, as you see the first season's results, you start adding in players that you've recruited or identified, and the roster starts to morph into something that resembles sort of what's in your mind's eye as better.
Yeah,
How do you
more
measure
cohesive.
that roster with then the actual game results and see whether that's tracking along what you want to see for growth? So, you know, do you some people export the game files and like really number crunch. Other people go off kind of like vibes. Vibes are great too. Where do you land in the sort of assessing, you know, whether players are productive for you or not, whether you want to go in a different direction based on game results? You know, do you let numbers inform that or vibes, or do you sacrifice a chicken in the backyard and pray to the Matt Howard gods to pull you in the right direction?
Yeah, yeah. I do like looking through the numbers and kind of evaluating the numbers. I think I I haven't been around long enough to really see the fruits of roster turnover actually make much of a difference. I have the 2 spring games with some players that I've recruited, but um, it's I mean there's some vibe based amount of it as well because it's like if some guys numbers look really good, but not when it counts the most, like they just like a David Chop or something. Um, you know,
Or a Peter London,
it
not that I would know anything about game-ending interceptions.
well, he gets to the big game, but um, what happens then is a bit of a toss up. Uh, yeah, it's you can't go all based on numbers. You can't go entirely analytically. I think the numbers do say a lot, but you do have to kind of look at them in situationally and um, just kind of try to see how it's fitting in with the bigger picture. Someone has a really high yards per catch, that's great, but if his catch rate is really poor because he keeps dropping it, then well, you got to kind of take all the stats into consideration. I I think maybe numbers a little too much for me. It's like I never did bench Herman Hunter because my other quarterbacks were probably going to be worse. But yeah, the rate that he was playing, I probably should have tried it. But who knows? Um, it's a little of both. It's a little of both. I think in the pro sim definitely. With the Saints, we've had more roster turnover as the year has gone on. I've been around for 2 drafts now. That's more of a group effort because with Bingo having his input and Tom Servo, Toss Power Trap, who just came on as the coach. It's the back and forth there and lots of discussion and analyzing of stats, but you really can't look at any single thing, I think.
Wrong guy to ask, but that's a Mystery Science Theater reference, right? Tom Servo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
His normal Discord name was like Tom Servo, but everyone thought his name was actually Tom. So on this server, he changed it to that Toss Power Trap
Yeah. Well,
because
now
no one else
everybody
got the
thinks
reference.
his
I
first
got the
name.
reference.
Yeah. Now everybody thinks his name is Toss. Obviously. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, but
so
he's an interesting guy. He's an interesting guy. He's
we're
cool.
we're all interesting guys. That's why we have the show. So we get to Well, sorry, not we. Holy shit. No, that's why Pierce has the show. I am filling in. This is not. I'm not taking ownership over the
Oh yeah,
excellent
but
media production that Pierce does. So on the Saints, you mentioned that there's been more roster turnover. It was a team, I think, when you joined them, if I remember correctly, and I could be very wrong about this, like I am with many things, particularly in the mentor chat. But if I remember correctly, they did kind of have the cap capacity to handle just gutting the whole thing and turning it all over. And you guys didn't do that. Although the team did need to, like, it needed other things, obviously. Um, so how did you kind of evaluate as the GM? Do we keep these veterans? Do we not keep these veterans? Which young players do we want to bring in? And obviously, with the draft, I think everybody sort of follows the sort of intuition of let's get the best player. We want good players. But I'm also kind of interested in if you give any thought into like that gooey middle of not like a top flight free agent, not a kick ass draft pick, but like how do you fill out the rest of your roster and make that count? Particularly for a team who is, no offense, not contending for a Super Bowl this year. How do you evaluate what other
right.
pieces you bring in?
Yeah, none taken. By the way, we know where the Saints are at right now, but we are optimistic for improvement this year. But anyway, to answer your question, the Saints. My understanding is that the year before the Saints joined, there was a big cap crunch, and there was kind of a fire sale then to get under the cap and reset everything because there was a bit of a cap hole. Um, and then when I came in, it was we were kind of starting from mostly the bottom there. The one we did retain a couple of big name veterans and mainly Arthur Madrano, but we did kind of keep a couple other veterans around. Um, but like even like Brett McPhail, which is kind of one of our albatross contracts at the moment, a little bit, but he's still performing at a fairly high level. It's just that he is starting to regress, and he's had a pretty big deal. But um, we're looking to we didn't want to tank, right? We didn't want to tank. That's not really something we kind of mentioned. We kind of already tanked with this past year anyway, after the previous year's kind of fire sale, and just kind of starting from there. New quarterback with Landrum, and a few steals that we found in undrafted free agency with Josh Bassett and of course Barraclough, the Barra Plow, as I've come to like to call him. But yeah,
There you
we're
go.
kind of looking to just maintain some balance. You got to look for players who have a high cost benefit ratio, essentially. Like, you're looking for players, like, even if they're not like an 80 something overall or 90 something overall, if they're young and kind of growing up into the 70s and they have reasonable contract, it's like, okay, that's a foundational player. That's what you can build on. And we are looking to build more around Landrum and find those complementary pieces for him. Uh, we can't get every big name free agent. We did get that defensive end, who's God, what was his name's escaping me right now, but we did get that big defensive end that got away from Dallas, and we spent a lot on him, and we'll spend a lot on Barraclough too. But after that, you kind of have to look for role players which fit your scheme, and even if they're not superstars, they need to be able to do something well. If they have good hands but not necessarily anything else, you can maybe still find a role for them and be able to maximize the skill set that they have. And yeah, so that's kind of the goal there. We want to build up without complete fire sale tank. We just need to get incrementally better and manage our contracts and make sure that we don't get too attached to anyone beyond their point that they're useful.
Yeah, so this is the part in the but that's a terrible. I'm not going to bring up Charlie Rose. I just realized he's canceled. This is the point in the interview when I lean forward and ask a hard question. So you say incremental improvement and making changes, and I'm a little bit curious. Looking at the roster on the contracts that you've given out. For example, Michael Dyson is
Tyson, that
at
was his name.
14 million a year for. By the way, far be it from me to criticize expensive long-term contracts, but Michael Dyson is at 14 million, and that's
Hmm.
if you traded or cut him, not that you would, but if you did, that's 36 million in dead cap to move him this year, and then each year is 9 million less. And then you have Dwayne DePaula, who would be another same exercise. It'd be another 10 million if you traded him, right? And then
Hmm.
Paul Munford would be 5 dead cap. You'd be about net even if you cut him now, because you're also paying him 6 million salary. But as you're a growing
Yeah.
team, in order to acquire talent, you got to give people money. They don't just want to come to the
Hmm.
Saints just because. You got to give them enough money to sign, but you also want to retain flexibility, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
How do you balance those two pressures of you got to make a big commitment to get them in the door, but we have to also still be able to pivot if we need to pivot. For example, like if you traded McPhail, well, okay, then you got to find another defensive lineman. Where obviously you have open cap space, but how do you balance those two competing pressures?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's important to just kind of kind of keep a cap picture in mind of like where you want to be cap wise down the road. Right now we've got about like 40 million in space after this year. Um, and we have some big re-signings coming up, particularly Barraclough. I have no idea what he's going to ask for, but we kind of have to pay him. Um, but that 40 million also has some pivot room. We've traded for a few players whose contracts that we could get rid of without any cap penalty. There are, some contracts, a number of contracts that we're okay letting expire. So I think we do have some more flexibility there. Um, you do need to pay your players, and that's something that we definitely know, and we want to keep talent in there. We want to pay talent appropriately. Um, I think kind of the secret to success is, well, I don't want to say I know the secret to success yet. I'm on the Saints right now, but kind of what we're looking at is, you know, pay the players that you need to pay and balance that with rookie contracts. If you can find rookie contracts, those can, you know, they're so low they can balance. If they're worth the effort, they can balance out a lot of the veteran signings, and you can have a really good team for while these players are on cheap rookie contracts. And also just knowing when to let a player go, like knowing when to move on, knowing when to stay. And it's a tricky art. We'll see how it plays out. I have been keeping an eye on our cap coming up for next year with the players we have to re-sign. I think it might be a little tight, but I think we can keep the players we want to keep.
Yeah,
And
with the CB contracts that just went out this offseason, who knows what Madrano would have, or no, sorry, you just re-signed Madrano, but Barrett Plow, I
the
mean,
Barra plow.
who knows? I mean, he could be asking for 25 million a year in AAV just from the pure contracts. I think the one merciful thing is that he's going to ask before he progresses, presumably more, because he's only a second year player. So his peers
Mm-hmm.
are actually, actually, the one person that if the contract evaluation system works as we originally had it when we devised it, the one person he's going to compare to ask for a new contract is your other guard, Mark Sharkey, because he's one overall point above, right? Or yeah,
Oh yeah,
he's one overall
yeah,
point above, so he'll look and say, okay, well that's 10 million in compensation.
yeah.
So
I mean,
that might actually help you. You should
yeah,
cut Mark Sharkey so he gets picked up by a team for $500,000, and that'll reduce your bear plow money.
yeah. We'll see. I mean, if he asks for something insane like 25 million a year, we'll just tag him. The tag is going to be a lot less than that.
Oh
It's like
God, is the
like a
sim so
average of top
realistic
five.
that it turns you into a monster? Is that the financial pressure is enough now? You're tagging people and
Well, I
robbing
mean,
them of their
we will
long
want to
term
pay
job
him.
security.
We do want to pay him long term. If he asks for 25 million a year, that is going to be really hard to swing with the cap. Um, and just from a numbers perspective, the tag will work there.
Oh, for sure.
It's like what, something about like a composite of the top five salaries at the position or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and it gives you another year to reduce sort of the intensity of the resign sort of zhuzh you get for being a younger player, if I remember correctly. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
I will say there was a bit of a mistake that I made during the first UDFA cycle, which was, I had just joined the sim and everything, but I was offering 2-year deals to a bunch of these UDFAs because it's like, oh yeah, we can get out of the deals easily if they're not any good. Where it's
Right.
like, I should have offered longer deals so that I could have them on the team for cheaper and longer deals if I wanted them to stick around. Bit of a mistake on my part, and we're going to see how that plays out with Barraclough, but, you know, it is what it is. Kind of have to work around that. But I'm just hoping he doesn't ask for 25 million a year. That would be kind of insane. Like, what is
I
the highest paid player in the entire sim even get 25 million a year?
I just pulled that number out of my ass, so I don't know if.
Oh, well,
But I
I
do
don't know.
know that San Francisco has Bordewick, or maybe I think he's still on the team. Let's see. So
Right. I did hear about San Francisco. Like,
yeah, so they
there's like a meme of
offered
them paying
28.
offensive linemen a lot of money, right?
Yeah, they're paying their Bordewick. They're paying him 28 million a year. So that's a
Whew.
tack. That's a tack. Or no, that is a guard. Yeah. So that's a guard making
Oh
28
boy.
million. So,
Oh
but
gosh, if that's what he really
but
asks
but
for.
if I recall correctly, it's two above, three below average, and that's roughly what they asked
Hmm.
for. So you just need two veterans not on their rookie deal above him that aren't Borderwick, and that would be your comparison point. So you're
Yeah.
probably not going to factor in, but it's these are the sorts of things you have to think about if you're managing the roster. Is every free agent you bring in is money that is immovable because once you use the bonus is
Hmm.
spent. Uh,
Yeah.
and
And
so how
I'm
much
imagining that
do you want
next
the
off
window
season.
to shrink on those sorts of things?
Yeah. The goal we had was this off season, especially free agency, we were going to be very active because we had a lot of cap room. I think the next off season or two, we will maybe be a little more conservative in free agency and uh, try to build through draft, maybe clear some cap if we can, kind of prepare for that next phase. Because I know that we're not going to be able to sign 45 million contract to defensive ends every year. Like that's Dyson. We're not going to be able to sign a Michael Dyson every year. But
Right.
um, so next off season might be a little less busy as we kind of just try to make sure to stay under the cap. But we're hoping that through progressions and building through the draft and our signed players continuing to develop, that we can continue to take the next step through that time.
So what do you reckon with the Saints? This is the sort of hot take machine part of it.
Hmm.
What? So just obviously measuring success is not just this, but what would you say would be a good season as far as your sort of win loss record? Are you looking to hit 500 or just stay out of disaster zone or beyond?
Um, I think if we go up to third place in the NFC South, that might be considered like baseline reasonable success. Like if we make it to 500, I think that's, far and away like resoundingly successful. Over doubling our win total from previous year would be a success by any measure. Um, but if we're able to move out of fourth place in the NFC South and move to third place in the NFC South, and you have the Buccaneers kind of retooling right now, having just brought in a new quarterback. One of the three that was drafted. I don't remember it was which one it was, but it wasn't Savage, but it was. I don't remember. But they brought in a new quarterback just like we did last year, and so they'll be kind of retooling a little bit on their own. So I think there's an opportunity there. I think Tampa Bay is probably going to be dangerous in the near future, and of course Carolina is very dangerous in the near present. But at least for this season, I think third place in the NFC South is a reasonable target for a successful year.
Travis Kingery is the QB they
Kingery,
drafted.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Kingery, yeah. Thank you.
Obviously, I don't stay real plugged into the draft for reasons, but the
I wonder why
interface,
that could be.
but the interface says that he's pick number two in the draft. So he was
Hmm.
second overall,
Yep,
which
they got Kingery.
I think sounds right. But again, I I actually had a work commitment for the draft anyway, which
Hmm.
I think the first time so, the first time I drafted was during a work event, and I was driving to. I think folks know I'm in Kansas. I was in a car driving to Wichita for an event, and it's not out in the middle of nowhere, but like the road in there, it's not. Some towns in the U.S. are like along riverways and stuff. Wichita is basically like just completely randomly plopped right in the middle
Hmm.
of the U.S. It's a big air city. They do a lot of airplane stuff, so that's nice. But there's no like other communities around it that are really really large. So cell phone reception was bad, and we were using. I think we were streaming on YouTube what the pics were. Then there's a Google Doc, and then this other website that was just for like I don't know, just fantasy sports or something, and we retooled it for the draft. And I had a work thing, so I was traveling to Wichita and I picked Dakota Link, if I recall correctly, from home, and then the second round guy, who obviously I've since traded. I don't remember who it is. And then
You picked Dakota Link?
yeah,
You were with the Panthers?
no, it's a whole thing. Let this is a whole. That's a whole other show. Um,
Huh.
we don't need to dive into that because it's touchy. But
Ah.
I acquired Dakota Link and then I traded Dakota Link. But
Oh, gotcha.
but then I drafted some guy in
Does
the
that
second round.
tie also into the Howard drama, or
Uh,
the
I
Howard was like the preliminary draft, not the like the first end of first year draft,
Howard
I
was
think.
Howard was into first year draft. Dakota was the preliminary draft, if I remember correctly.
Uh, right. Okay. Yeah. Other way
Yeah.
around.
Yep. Yep. Because Howard was at FSU and threw for a bajillion yards. Dakota Link was just highly rated. I mean,
Yeah.
they had that one season of college ball and then they went to the NFL draft. But the NFL had not played any seasons yet. It was the initial preliminary draft when Dakota was drafted. But that third pick, I was
Yeah.
actually running. So I got to the event. I'm helping a guy set up a thing, and my boss, and then I'm like, hang on, and I go run into the restroom to try to get reception. I can't get reception anywhere in this building, so I'm up at the window trying to get the phone to refresh the app for the fantasy drafting app thing, and
Hmm.
I miss my pick by like I see the clock just tick down, and I don't get the
Oh
pick
no.
in, and I think that guy's the only player who's still on the roster. It was a safety that I drafted. But that was my one experience with drafting, and then after that, I've just not really participated in the draft
Yeah.
because I've
I've
been
got a
trading.
fun draft story from this past draft, actually. So I've been in a fantasy football league with some college buddies for the past, however many years since I've graduated. Um, and we were trying to find a time that worked for everyone for our fantasy draft. And it got to the point where everyone but me was agreed on one date, which was the Saturday of the SimNFL draft. And it was
Ooh.
like, are you sure you can't do it? And I'm like, I guess I can try it. I guess I can try to make it work. So on that Saturday, I was in two drafts at once. And I was also juggling the draft cards at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Did, did
that was chaos.
did
We
you
did
have
not
any?
have many
Yeah, yeah.
picks.
Did you have
The
any of
Saints did not have
those?
many picks,
Yeah, yeah. Did you
but
have any
I had
sort of like classic
a lot of
sitcom mistake where like you're rushing between the two spaces and you forget which one you're in, and you show up in the one wearing the brown wig, but you're supposed to be wearing the red wig, that kind of thing. Did you post a
uh,
draft card in the fantasy chat and have to explain why there's
uh,
a
I
draft graphic with an upside
I
down wide receiver or whatever?
Yeah, I thought that I was going to end up doing that at some point. I was like, I'm just gonna like make the wrong pick to the wrong draft room or something. But um, luckily that didn't happen. I did kind of have to explain what Sim NFL was, and these people were like not really the type to play spreadsheet sim games.
Yeah,
Fantasy football, and for maybe some of them, Madden is probably like about all they do, but or like the college football game.
yeah,
But
yeah.
uh, yeah, so it's like I kind of had to be like, because they're asking me like, what exactly are you also doing right now? Because I told them that my attention was split, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm actually doing another draft, but it's this other like really nerdy spreadsheet thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you say like, hey guys, you know the part of Madden that you guys don't like at all and don't play? I'm playing a game that is just that part of Madden. That's it. There's not now the rest of it. But it's you know the way I found to
the numbers
explain
part.
it is an equally unhelpful reference, which is to say it's like Stratomatic baseball. And then either they're like, "Oh, okay, I get Stratomatic baseball" if they're over the age of 60, or they just go, "Yeah, okay, I guess," you know, and then that
I
sort of.
I'm not even really familiar with Stratomatic baseball.
It was, if I remember correctly, and it's before my time, but basically it was like a pen and paper text sim. But I think it was dice. You would roll, and it would give you a result
Um,
for the baseball game, and you move your little guy around
yeah,
a pegboard and
yeah. The
have fun.
point of reference I used was front office football, but they didn't even get that
Oh
reference.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of like trying to explain what it was. And,
Right, right,
um,
right. They haven't been touched. They haven't been touched by the glory of Matt Howard yet. So
mm-mm. They have
yeah,
not seen Howard's light,
yeah. So
or David
I haven't.
Ross's for that matter, which is probably even the more unfortunate thing.
Yeah, really. So I haven't touched the draft very much. Jokingly, because I had such a terrible experience the first time, not being able to complete it. But mostly it's just because obviously we're sort of, and I've written about this on the Discord before, but like we're in contention mode and the draft picks take a little while to kind of cook in the oven,
Hmm.
particularly in the beginning of the sim before the boom bust cycle that really like you can get good players like Dakota Wink's a good player, but it took a while for him to come online. So I haven't really engaged with any sort of like draft meta, and I'm not asking you to spill proprietary New Orleans Saints secrets here, but you know, as the team who acquired the best UDFA in the sim, I thought it might be worth asking if you had any thoughts on helpful ways to approach the draft. Do you have any, you know, materials that you
Yeah.
prepare ahead of time? Do you? It's so much that anyone plans anything out, but you know, do you plan on different discussions? You know, before you jump in the draft, how do you handle sort of the? I mean, I guess your war room was the draft, and then also the fantasy draft
The
at the
other
same
draft.
time. But you know,
Yeah.
how do you approach drafting?
Yeah. As far as you mentioned that UDFA with Bear Claw, that was almost kind of luck because I saw, oh, A overall UDFA, let's go in on him. And then I just happened to win him. And it happened to be, 79 overall. But draft strategy, the what we kind of do, um, you have your scouting points, which you have the very limited pool of, and then you have kind of the other methods of more manual scouting through like the pro days and the combines, and even just looking at players' statistics for the year. And we'll look at pro day and combine, and kind of keep an eye out on players that we think maybe could do something, through whatever channels we can know about. And then we kind of compile those names, and then we also kind of cross-reference that with like our positions of most need. So it's like, okay, this past year we needed wide receivers. We took one pretty late because the way the cards fell, there weren't really any of the ones we liked left by the time we were picking. But so we needed wide receivers. We were also looking at like tight ends and linebackers. We needed a number of different positions, safeties, and so it's like, okay, let's
As
take a
one
look at,
does.
as one does, especially if one rebuilding. And it's like, okay, these are the guys whose combine number stood out, and these are the positions that we need. So then we go to the scouting points, and we'll say, okay, let's go one. We go. I went position group by position group this year, and just kind of took a player, scouted a few key attributes just to see, okay, how does this look? And if we liked what we saw, we'd maybe scout a little more, or maybe we would just kind of note like, okay, this guy scouted pretty well, or this guy scouted pretty poorly, or hey, this guy might be, might not be great, but he might be a bit of a late round steal. Those kinds of things. And it's I was really nervous to use the scouting points because they go very quickly. So you kind of have to do a lot of as much work as you can ahead of time. And you also have to remember not to trust the draft book. The draft book grades are a very rough guideline, but you had A pluses in the draft book that were, not worth day one picks, and some maybe even not worth day two picks. So the draft book is off, and it can be a rough guideline, but it's not really something to trust.
That's right. Whoever compiled the draft book this year specifically, the person this
No,
year who compiled the draft book, eat shit.
You've done a great job with the draft books. I was speaking specifically of the
no,
letter grades in the draft book, which you don't make. You just compile. You don't make the numbers.
It's entirely possible I just mismatched what imported in the thing. I only did it this year because.
No, I think what it is I think they're intentionally fuzzied. I think when the draft book letter grades are generated, they're intentionally fuzzied, and they can be very fuzzied.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you'll have A plus players that are not worth the pick because it's intentional fog of war.
This is
they
how I
want to
know,
have an idea of what players.
Yeah. This is how I know I have sim NFL brain. Is I was thinking like, oh yeah, highly drafted player who tested high in attributes but really wasn't worth the pick, and I can think Golston, but I can't think of the first name. I remember Golston, defensive end for the Jets, but I'm thinking Yoenis Golston because that's the running back for the Broncos.
It was Vernon Golston.
Vernon Golston is the defensive end.
Yeah.
It's as Pierce said, you get sucked into the vortex, and here you are. So all of that's very interesting from a guy who basically doesn't draft. I did have a pet project before I used some draft picks, which was, here was my plan. You tell me if this is a good plan or a bad plan, and then we'll get back to your Saints drafting, which is more prepared than mine. I was going to hoard all of the 7th round picks. I had like 10 of them. I was going to get as many 7th round picks as I could, and then wait to use my scouting points until it got to the 7th round. So I could scout like everybody that I could possibly want with those, and basically just get like preferred UDFAs. But then I flipped all of those 7th rounders because
you don't have the cap space.
As a vampire, I'm allergic to draft picks. So it burns me to be I can't be in the same room as a draft pick is actually, what
that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. It's not just a matter of cap space. Then it's actual physical allergy.
Yeah, I had to pay Duke to go into the room and handle the draft picks for me when they were traded. But now that he's gone, I guess I have to keep them or something. We'll see what we do. So
maybe there's some sort of exposure therapy you can do or something. I don't know.
Like a tablespoon of picks every day, just a little bit, just 1 7th rounder. We'll think about drafting. We'll scout a little bit every day, and maybe we'll get.
You start with a 7th rounder, then the next year you get 2 7th rounders, and then maybe you could start going up to like a 6th.
Honestly, given the state we're in right now is actually exactly that, because we have 3 5th rounders, and then the next year we have 2nd through 7, and then we have a full slate after that. So, kind of happening. Who knows what we'll do mid-season? It could change.
You never know. I mean, that sounds like an interesting idea, I will say. I don't know how gamey it would be considered, but then again, they're 7th round picks anyway. So if you find someone that no one else found, that's kind of their problem. That they let them get to the 7th round. I think you will be casting a wide net, and you will have a lot of cracks at it, a lot of bites at the apple, so to speak. You'll probably be able to find a gem or two. You'd probably get a handful of players that could be contributors. I don't know if you're gonna really be able to find any superstars that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you want to find reliable contributors in the seventh round on seventh round contracts, and you're willing to do a lot of weird maneuvering to get to that point,
Well, and the only way
maybe.
that you can get to that point is by having no other draft responsibilities until the seventh round, which is already its own sort of detriment
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah,
to
yeah.
drafting. And I think the seventh round has some guaranteed money, or the salary is a little bit higher than minimum. One of the two, maybe both. So
Yeah, they're pretty low.
for Denver, when you're like really trying to get right at 0.01 on cap space when acquiring talent, it's a little tough. And acquiring a kicker, and I think we used some on another player, was better money
Mm.
spent. But I noodled around with that idea for a little while and then bailed. But for a team who
It's
does,
intriguing.
yeah,
I don't know
so
how well it would have worked, but it's intriguing.
yeah, it's basically like paying an extra 2 million in cap space to just get in front of the line for the UDFA's, basically.
Mhm.
But that was the plan. But for a team who actually has draft picks and has been through a couple of drafts now, do you have a big miss, a player you're like, almost had him, or I should have taken him?
There's, I think particularly it kind of worked out in the end either way for us, but there was kind of an interesting thing with the QB pick from the previous year's draft where we took Landrum. Um, we had focus scouting on Dominique Anku, who went in the second to the Browns, and the focus scouting looked really good. And our plan going into the draft was, okay, we thought Landrum was going to go top three, so we didn't think we were going to get Landrum. We were like, okay, it's going to be like one Nabel, two Landrum, or like one Nabel, two other Nabel, three Landrum, or something like that. Um,
I've been
and
in
so
my
our
head.
plan was we were going to
Yeah,
trade
yeah.
down and try to take Anku. And then no one picked Landrum until our draft position at 7. And so it's like, well, I guess we got to go with Landrum then. And then after the draft, when the later in the season when overalls got revealed, Anku was, I think, either the same overall as Landrum or maybe even a point higher and also with higher potential. So, of course, you can't just look at numbers for everything, but it was kind of like, oh, they basically got the same player that we did, maybe even slightly better, but a round back. But we weren't even expecting to get Landrum to begin with. So I guess that's kind of the story on that front. I think there may be instances of it this coming year. I think we are happy with Roko Souza in the first round. With that 30-second pick that we got from that was from Washington. Yeah, we got that from Washington. Um, and we're happy with Roko Souza. However, I think we were also looking. Jarvis Mara was also in the same spot, as well as was Eric Braverman still there? I can't remember. But there are a few guys that we were also thinking about that were in that same spot that we could have taken and could have also done well. But um, I think that's probably what comes to mind the most there. I mean, of course, out of the two drafts, one of them we haven't even seen the results of, so not a huge sample size. But
Right, right, right. Are there any? I mean, obviously the Bear Plow comes to mind, but he technically was not a draft pick. Are there
yeah,
any
he was
draft?
UDFA.
Are there any draft picks where you said, "Yeah, we crushed that. We crushed it. Just crushed it. We're the best."
Um, we really liked the Chris Watkins pick this past year, which was our third rounder. There was a bit of a mess with that one. You know, with the 49ers and uh, what who his name the for some reason the 49ers owner's name is escaping me, but It's also the same coach as USC, but there was a mess around the timing with that draft pick, and we both tried to draft the same guy at once. But Novella.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry about that again, Novella. That was
Put
a bit of a
some.
mess,
First of
but
all, put some respect on his name. I believe he is a doctor.
Doctor Novella.
Yeah. There you
Yes,
go.
yes, Doctor Novella. Yeah.
And for mentioning his name, we're
A bit
going
of a
to receive
mess.
an invoice from the medical billing company for $300. I'm sure.
Yeah. That'd be applied as a cap penalty, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um,
There you go. There you go.
but we think that Chris Watkins was a very much a steal at his draft position. We're a big fan of him. We're also really liked our free safety pick last year was just check his name again.
Could you?
Devontae Todd. Devontae Todd. Devontae Todd, our second rounder last year, also a fantastic value. You know, we had Landrum in the first, but then we also picked up Devontae Todd, who was like a 67A or something, or like a 64A, I think maybe. Uh, but he's also looking really good for his draft position. So I think we've had a couple of big kind of those kind of mid round hits there. Haven't really knocked it out of the park with any seventh rounders yet, I don't think, or any like sixth or seventh, but maybe one day.
So I'm a little bit curious because you mentioned Todd, and you know, I think he's one of those younger players. And I'm not advertising that everybody go check out the Saints roster and start making crazy trade offers for this guy. You're welcome to do that if you want. But by the way, he's from UTSA. Who? Oh no, sorry, that was Texas State. Never mind. I think UTSA is a decent college program. I honestly don't remember, but
Are they
at any
human
rate,
coached? I don't know.
I had them mixed up in my head for a second with Texas State, who was
Mm.
briefly human coached, but just when the rosters were generated inexplicably, Texas State was just loaded with good players. Ryan Johnson,
Kind of
I
like
think.
UNLV, right? It
I
was kind
think,
of the same with like UNLV.
yeah,
Or was that
I
built
think
up by a
so.
human?
That might have been built up. I don't remember.
Baylor was
No,
pretty good too. I mean, Baylor's been pretty good, but
yeah, they were human. They're I don't remember anybody's name. It's
like I think
terrible.
Tulsa, Baylor, UNLV had like some really insane year one rosters if I remember the stories correctly. But of course, I wasn't there for that, so I can't really speak
Yeah,
definitively. But
but at any rate, it's a good player, Devontae Todd. One of the
mm,
things that I think causes his overall to be lower is that his man coverage score is very very much lower than his zone coverage. So he's one of those players that's a specialist, right, in one thing, which isn't a big deal if you
yeah,
run zone. I'm kind of curious, and this is me making a transition. One of my wants for the interface or for like player evaluation is like a toggle for like an alternative overall score where it removes. I guess this part's more bothering Tuscan about it, but a toggle that would remove the sort of shared weight of the two types of coverage and just move it to one or the other, or like that particular team's set coverage. So then you can kind of see, oh well, what's their performance based on what is actually going to be used by the game to figure out whether a player is any
yeah,
good.
yeah, because it does depend on whether you want a man safety or a zone safety, and you could toggle your safeties to be man or zone. So I think that is an interesting idea. I I have thought of possibly different possibilities for calculating overall weights, but having kind of a more dynamic overall based on their role, that could be an interesting idea that we'd have to see with Tuscan about the viability of. But I
Yeah.
do kind of like that idea.
And I bring this up, of course, Jedibob, because you volunteered to help out on the interface, and in particular, have been involved in Interface
Mhm.
2. This is the new and fancier version of the interface. What has been your involvement in that, and is there anything particularly that you would like to take credit for and make a victory lap celebration out of? And
Yeah,
what are you interested in being involved in? In the future, what are you looking forward to as the interface 2 comes together?
Yeah, yeah. Most of my contributions, I kind of have two main contributions to sim dev work at the moment. The first being the big training camp stuff. That was all back end on the API, so that wasn't necessarily interface 2.0, but that does was a pretty big benefit to the sim as a whole. Just being able to run the training camps with a single API call and just have it be that. That was a lot of fun to work on. The other thing was kind of more of a long-term project that I've just kind of got mostly wrapped up at this point. There's still a few things we want to try and tweak and work out. Was just getting things to run faster and getting better performance out of it. I worked together with Tuscan on figuring out more efficient ways to deliver all of the data needed from the back end to the interface, so you wouldn't have to like wait 10-15 seconds for that first screen to finish popping up. And I think we got some fairly solid results so far with what we've managed to figure out on that front. So that's been pretty cool.
Now my knowledge of backend is from The Sims. So did that process involve reticulating splines at all?
Oh, so many splines. I had to
Okay,
reticulate all of the splines.
yeah,
Some of them I had to reticulate several times over.
and that's like a special tool or something that you need certification for.
Oh
The
yeah,
the
yeah.
reticulating.
You get your spline reticulation
Okay.
certification. You got to renew it every 2 or 3 years or something.
Okay. Well, it's good that we have licensed people handling the splines. So.
Yeah, you always got to be careful with your splines. You don't want to get your splines out of whack. Bad things will
So,
happen. That's
so
that's when the demons show up.
you know what? That's when you get players like Mark Sharkey with negative stamina showing up briefly. So, what are you looking forward to
Or
as you
or
guys? Oh yeah, go ahead.
or H Rod with 104 speed. Briefly.
I mean, I'm glad I don't have any dog in that fight, but I'm glad that he is slower. That's what I'll say about that.
I mean, he's terrifying anyway. Like he's gonna be a hell of a running back.
That
He's 99 speed as a rookie. So
that'll be really interesting to see too. Is just the evaluation of running backs as are these running backs outliers, or is this something consistent we'll see moving forward? Where similar to real life, if you take a swing at a running back, they're almost instantly an immediate contributor, but they also fall off pretty fast. So that's kind of an interesting thing to
yeah,
consider.
yeah. With the running backs lower prime age, it is they are kind of the more shorter term contributors. If there is ever a venerable running back discovered, that will be one of the most valuable players in the league. I think I'm gonna call it. If anyone ever ends up with a venerable running back, that is going to be an extremely valuable asset
Fingers
because they
crossed.
are
It's
high overall anyway.
yeah. Fingers crossed. It's Ryan Johnson. We'll see. So, what are you looking forward to as you guys continue to work on Interface 2?
Um, yeah, as going forward, I need to try and figure out where I want to focus my efforts next. I have a lot of ideas swirling around in my head about how things could be done differently or improved. In particular, I think I have some ideas formulated. I need to get like an actual design proposal put together for it, but I do think at some point I want to take a crack and see how I can improve recruiting. And because I think there's a lot of interesting interesting ideas for improvement that we could go down that route. Particularly, I think scouting not being a thing in recruiting is kind of odd, and not having to scout at all in recruiting. I do kind of like the boom bust changes and kind of more fuzzying to kind of make it a little more unpredictable. Uh, and then there was also some talk in the Discord a while back about revamping school affinities, which not exactly sure what direction I want to go in that just yet, but I got some ideas kind of brewing for that.
Do you have a particular like? Are you thinking about sort of different categories of affinities being added, or just sort of reimagining the whole thing?
Uh, from what I remember of the conversation, I forget who had brought it up, but it was one of the newer members. The idea was instead of just having like a bunch of single individual affinities um, that schools could either have or not have, you would have like kind of opposing categories. Because it's like the idea was something like you would have, oh, this school is a party school versus, oh, this school's an academic school, and they'd be mutually exclusive.
Mhm.
um something to that effect. And also it would have the effect of every school being able to be eligible for some kind of affinity bonus on recruits no matter what, because it would just be every school occupies a place along those continuums of you know like a small town or large town, party school, academics, that kind of thing.
Sure, sure. So, what do you have any particular affinities you feel are very defining for a university that are missing at the moment?
Any
What's
defining
what's your hip shot? This should be in there. Affinity for recruiting.
uh probably I guess party school,
Hmm.
because you have some of these schools that are like really known for like their atmosphere at the game. You kind of have some like game atmosphere stuff with the large crowds affinity, but even then, like I think specifically, even if school doesn't have a particularly large stadium, there's still some that are like really diehard, you know, fans and party school reputation, and that I think definitely can attract certain players to certain teams in real life. Is kind of some people, they aren't there to play school and they want to have
Right,
fun. And some of these, I think that would be kind of my guess there, or my what I would
right,
say.
right. I think we've heard a little bit about that since the recruiting system started. Of we have to find a way to celebrate the Iowa states and Washington states of the world with. I mean, the amount of bush light they consume has to turn into recruits somehow. It just has to. We have to represent that in the
Yeah,
sim.
that's what
So,
that's exactly those kinds of schools like Iowa State, Washington State, those small town schools that are extremely diehard and you know have a blood alcohol level higher than their GPA.
although Iowa State, they are I think the veterinary program for the entire state of Iowa. So
No,
got
no,
a lot
yeah.
of got a
I
lot
mean,
of
some of the
pigs
schools
out
are
there.
pretty good academically as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Some of the schools are pretty good academically as well. I do kind of jest. No offense to Iowa State. I know some people who went to Iowa State, so
As a Husker, I will say some offense to Iowa State. Not as much offense as maybe in the past, but you know. So uh, I used to have a professor who would say he smoked a pipe and he would lean back in his chair and smoke his pipe and then he'd rub his wattle. He had a wattle. He would rub it and then he would say, "Well, back at the ranch." So back at the ranch. Returning to the topic of the interface, um, how did you come into helping out? Was it experiencing Interface One for all its glory and going, "I bet I could help with this," and then offering to help, or was it something else? How did you end up
yeah.
roped in?
I'm a programmer by trade, and joining into this and seeing what they had with the interface. Even Interface One, I think, is still fairly impressive for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but coming into it, it's like, hey, I've often made attempts to kind of help out with open source coding projects in the past, and like I've joined a few like modding communities for various games I've been obsessed with at various times. Briefly, I haven't really stuck with any particularly long, but so it's like I was like, hey, they seem to be doing this cool thing. They have maybe I could chip in at some point. And I did talk to Tuscan about it, and the it turned out that the interface 2 stack, along with what the API runs on, is almost exactly what I do for a living already. The backend is written in Go, which is not an especially common language. It's not super rare, but it's not especially common at this point. And the front end is in TypeScript. And those two languages are the ones that I use at my job right now. So I was like, oh, I might be actually pretty well suited to this. Of course, my TypeScript experience is mostly with like Node and more backend services instead of like front end React and stuff, but it still applies. And so it was kind of wanting to contribute back to that and be able to use my expertise to help improve the sim. And I'm still kind of figuring out how all the code base works, particularly the front end, but I'm getting pretty decent with the back end, and it's been fun. I like to have side projects sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of chipping in ways to help the sim and the community, one of the ways you've also done that is to introduce us to the magic that is the draw play
The draw
and
play and
the
the draft cards,
draft
yes.
cards. So how did that come about? Also, I can't imagine anybody's sitting through this and not knowing what the draft cards are, but kind of explain how that came about.
Yeah, yeah. So the draw play is a football webcomic done by a Dave Rapocchio, and he's a cool guy. He's on like Blue Sky, and I follow his comic and him on Blue Sky and such. And I around the time of the first draft that I was here for, um, I think it was when no, that was it was I think was that I can't remember, but I think it might have been sometime after relatively close to the real NFL draft, and I think I might be mistaken on that. But anyway, I kind of got I saw the draft cards
Remember,
that David
I'm the
posted.
wrong guy. I would not know.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I saw I knew that he did these draft cards every year, and at that first draft, I was kind of like, huh, I wonder if he'd be willing to commission some, because I know he had done commissions in the past. At the time, he did not have commissions open. So for that first draft, it was just kind of like, we'll shelve that idea for a while. And then for the second draft, this most recent draft, he had opened up his commissions. He had been laid off, and so I was like, okay, well, our draft is coming up again. I want to help out Dave. He's cool guy, and this would be something really awesome to surprise everyone with. Because with the past drafts, as you have the cameos and all of the people with the draft and the draft book too, the printed draft book and everything, people go over the top for that. So it was like, it's like, okay, that's a way that I could really kind of make my mark on the whole thing. And so I looked into it. He quoted a price higher than I could have really reasonably justified swinging, but I reached out to a bunch of people in the Discord, got a ton of people to help chip in, you included. And to everyone who contributed, thank you so much once again. I know I've thanked you like a million times already, but that was not happening without y'all. But yeah, so it was just kind of a serendipity of he opened up his commissions at the right time, and I was able to get in touch with him early enough to get the cards ready before the draft, and it worked out, and the results were fantastic. I was really, really pleased with that. So thank you once again to everyone who participated and to Dave. Not that he'll watch this, but
Well, I mean, with any hope, it's a funny position to be in of hoping he doesn't get employed ever again. But I hope he keeps his commissions open, even if he gets a new day job. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Draw Play, one of the all-timer web comics that I think
especially football.
predates all of the sort of Reddit posting and
He's been doing it for a
Instagram and all
long
of that.
time.
One of my favorites is I think I came across it because there's an Austin Collie retirement comic. I think I
Oh,
posted it
that
once
one
or
was one
twice.
of his early infamous ones.
Yeah, yeah, and
It was
that one cracked me up
retiring
pretty bad. he
old
old
yellering Austin
yeah
Collie.
he old Peyton Manning old yellers Austin Collie, which is just a great bit. So
Yeah,
I
he
think
he
it's
does
the
like his puns and wordplay too. So collie.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's still, is it just thedrawplay.com? Yeah. So
Yep,
uh,
drawplay.com. He's been doing it for a very long time. I like at least like early 2010s, maybe even late aughts. Oh yeah, his
it's so
first
old.
comic was 2012.
Yeah, it's so old. It still has a blog, which is oof. That's ancient in sort of webcomic space, which I think is mostly just shit posting political opinions on Reddit now in graphic form. But not that I don't enjoy
Yeah.
those too, but the draw play is a classic, so go check that out.
Yeah, like the two web comics that I really actively follow right now are Drawplay and XKCD, and that's pretty much it.
You know that tracks for someone who's programming as your day job. That XKCD would be now if we could get him commissioned to do something.
Just a bunch of stick
Yeah.
figures.
Well, or like to answer a question of like, what if 1 billion, what if 20% of the world's population turned into Matt Howard? How
Or no,
much?
who would win? 1,000 tiny Matt Howards or one giant David Ross?
There you go. There you go. That's perfect. Yeah. There you go. Cool, cool. So you really kind of led the drive on the draft cards, and they were amazing, and that was great. One of the other
Yeah,
things
yeah.
you got involved in, and maybe again this has something to do with what you mentioned was your day job, but you also had another project you did somewhat recently, which was to do with college football head coach,
Oh, the
the
football
video the
coach.
text
Yeah,
in game.
football coach college dynasty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really itching after in that first season, like with Michigan State particularly, and in all the waiting for the next week of the game and next that game to run, and because everything runs in real time here, it's like really itching to like play it single player.
Right. Right.
Um, but of course, there's no means to do that. So I, I had found the league through the football coach Discord when Kirby contacted me. I had been posting on their Discord server, and Kirby was like, "Hey, we got this sim that we do. It's multiplayer. Everyone involved, a lot of fun." I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I joined up through that. So I joined up through that Discord, and I was really itching to play more of this sim offline. So I was like, I wonder if I could make a custom roster file for it. So I had access to the APIs for the sim and was able to like pull down all the player data, or at least what I could, and translate that to write a script to kind of go through each one and reformat it and like randomly generate values in the somewhat vicinity of college football coach overall points, and just generate the roster file from that. And it was like a 2-day frenzy. The first iteration, I spent like 2 days. Like after work, I kind of just I ate dinner and then I kind of just worked on the script until I went to bed for those 2 days. And on the end of that second day, I had something that was playable, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So I shared it around. I made some updates for this year, generated the new roster file, and made the overall conversion a little better. It's actually in a pretty decently playable spot. I still need to do some more stuff with like the school ratings and such. I kind of roughly tried to translate prestiges, but I think for other things like facilities and all of the other like school attributes, and still need to get those in. And maybe if I could generate the coaches as well to kind of give them systems that are similar to what they run in the sim, that would also be another future addition. But yeah, that's kind of a fun little pet project of mine there. Um, and definitely appreciate the opportunity to kind of plug that. You can go find it in the like the general section of the forums, or if you can't find it, just DM me or something. If anyone wants to play it, anyone watching this, hit me up.
So in any of those, so obviously you have the roster file, and then presumably you've played it some. In any of those seasons, did Michigan State win the national title? Oh, just straight away.
No.
Okay.
Um,
So,
I
what would you say were the biggest differences between the roster file? Because you did it, as you mentioned, the first version was I think for last season, right? So,
mhm.
what was the biggest difference you saw between what that game engine did with your converted roster, and then what actually sort of happened in the sim last season?
Yeah. It's kind of funny after the first roster, I played a little bit with it, but I wasn't super happy with it. But I also at that time I was a little by the time I was like actually playing with it, I was a little burned out on making improvements. So after I made the roster file, I didn't actually play with it that much. I am like a couple seasons in on the updated one for this year, and I believe I went like 5-7 this first year. So if we hit 5-7 in real life, that'd be great. Or was it like four? I think it was 5-7. But or was it like another 3-9? I can't remember if it gave because it gave me a really tough out of conference schedule. But I think I also won a few games that I didn't really expect to win. So it was somewhere around like 3-9, 5-7. But um, I think I think Tennessee won the national title in year one, so nothing too surprising there, I guess. I mean, I guess depending on whether you consider expectations versus reality with Tennessee, but Tennessee won the title year straight away. Um, but at least in like the couple seasons that I've like fully played, things kind of worked out as you know pretty generally what I'd expect. Like um, the couple of the Heisman frontrunners that we're expecting this upcoming season, or at least possible Heisman frontrunners. Holden over at Utah was like fifth in Heisman voting in the season I ran, and I think Navy Kyung Hui also was in the Heisman running. So it did translate that pretty well. And I think I'm fairly happy with the. I think over the long term, you'll see certain schools shift around kind of closer to what they are in real life because I didn't change any of the other than the prestige. I didn't change any of like the school attributes like their stadium quality, their facilities, their marketing levels or whatnot. So uh, for schools that are good in real life but not so great in the sim, I would expect them to kind of bounce back as their attribute grades would allow them to recruit and develop a lot better. Um, so like I would expect to see like Tulsa sink and Ohio State rise. Um, Tulsa being one of the top teams, like Western Michigan as well. And then you got like your Bamas and Ohio States, which in the sim are okay, but in real life, Bama and Ohio State. If I can get those reworked to something more in line with what the sim actually does, then I might be fairly faithful to what we have, honestly. But we'll see. I still need to work on it some more.
I mean, it's just a fun thing to do. Like as you said, I think some of the Skinner box that draws people into the sim is that weekly sort of delayed gratification of, oh, this is
Mm.
fun. Oh, I gotta wait, and then you're checking the interface or whatever, or scrolling through the play by plays in the Discord, and it's just it hooks you, but you don't have a way to kind of exorcise those demons of. I would
I
like
mean,
to
you
see
can
my
bring
team
media.
look better sooner. Yeah, that too. So that's a great thing to check out. It's
Mm.
somewhere, if not DM Jedi Bob. So, lastly, you have an upcoming spring game against former Denver assistant and Marshall head coach Nuke Baum.
Mm.
Any predictions or goals for that last spring game? What are you looking to see for Michigan State out of that matchup with Marshall?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the ground game to establish itself a little better. The first two spring games, so far our quarterback is our leading rusher, and it's not by a lot. um, you know, it it's more of a statement to how the running backs haven't really gotten off the ground than it is Wilfredo Neary actually running effectively. It's like In like his first game, he led the team with like 41 yards rushing or something. So I'm hoping the ground game can establish itself, particularly through the running backs. I'm really optimistic about the running back duo that I have with the experienced Lewis McGowan versus kind of the new young freshman 5-star phenom Aaron Thomas. Kind of that little 1-2 punch there. I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping they can establish itself a little better. I think the defense has been doing fairly well over the first 2 spring games. If we could get more turnover generation, we had a lot in that first game, but I think they retooled some of the turnover calculation percentages and stuff after that first game. So the second game, I don't think had much of any turnovers, but looking for establishing the run game, getting that defense really set in, and stopping their run. They don't have Tremaine Craig anymore, but they're still, they still kind of got the infrastructure to run the football, and I think it should be. I think it should be an interesting matchup. They won't have Tremaine Craig, but they will. I think because of that, they do kind of match up fairly well against us. And I think it should be an exciting game.
Just for reference, that first spring game against NC State, David Andrews had an all-timer of an awful day with 4 interceptions and 8 sacks, which is not great.
That reminded me of for a little more self-deprecation here. That reminded me of Herman Hunter's early season form last year.
Mm.
He had like 9 picks through the first 3 games or something. It was like 11 picks through the first 3 games or something silly.
I think
Um,
the best recent Michigan State, because Michigan State's generated roster was actually pretty good, but the best recent history Michigan State performance was when they played Nebraska the year before you coached them, and I accidentally got the direction of the defensive preference wrong, and I went 100 on run stop, and then they threw for like 450 yards on me. And,
oh,
I was almost one of the only wins they had on the season, so I may have
I remember Pierce told me a story. I don't remember if it was the season before or like 2 seasons before, but Indiana had been on a roll, but then just randomly choked a game to Michigan State, who was not looking good that year.
right.
And I think he said it was like one of the times he was genuinely upset with with the sim. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's something, I guess. Although Indiana definitely got their revenge last year. They whooped State. I think they shut us out, if I recall.
Yeah, has anybody seen uh, Kurt Signetti and Pierce in the same room? I'm just saying. I mean, Indiana's turning around. They're chucking TDs. So
Yeah, they made the playoff, didn't they? In real life, or they came close to it.
in real life, yeah, they made
Yeah, in
the
real life.
playoff, and then they. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I should know. But if I wait, did they? This is everybody gets to find out in real time how little I pay attention to real sports outside of Nebraska. Which, by the way, paying attention to real sports as far as Nebraska football, a very minimal time commitment because they don't go to bowl games anymore. But let's
Dang.
see. Yeah, they played Notre Dame in the first game of the playoff.
Yeah, I mean
And
they were bounced in the first round of the playoff, but honestly, just getting there was kind of an insane achievement for Indiana
yeah,
because like Indiana, they had been, and they're still on a roll this year. Looks like they're currently still 7-0 in real life. And that's
yeah,
insane for Indiana, who was like a Big Ten dumpster dweller, cellar dweller, basement dweller, whatever you want to call it, for years and years. And then all of a sudden, Kurt Signetti comes in and just turns around the whole thing and goes to the playoffs year one. It's
it,
insane what he's been doing over there.
there was a conversation in the Discord in a voice channel yesterday night, and we actually went and looked. Not about Indiana, but Indiana happened to be in the top 10 losingest programs of all time in football.
Really,
So there you go. Yeah, even
FBS.
yeah, in FBS, which is if you go look on Sports Reference, includes 300 schools Some of them are like the local YMCA who played 2 games, back in 1893. But it's all of the losingest teams are all major conference teams that just never put it together because they were always playing opponents that were sort of ready to be competitive
like
every year. And so
like
it's
like
Iowa
Indiana,
State,
Vandy,
Kansas State, that kind of thing. But
Northwestern.
Indiana, Illinois, and Indiana, I think, are in there from the Big Ten. Or no, sorry, Northwestern and Indiana are there from the Big Ten. Illinois, I think, might be kind of up there, but it's
Probably Vanderbilt, huh?
it's cool to see. Yeah, yeah, for sure, Vandy.
Although even Vanderbilt's kind of making a bit of a turnaround.
My uh,
I mean, they did
this isn't
beat
a
LSU.
hot take. This isn't a hot take. Everybody's saying Clark Lee's good. Everybody's excited about Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator. They hired Jerry Kill, and my steadfast belief is Jerry Kill is the secret to that whole thing. And once Jerry Kill's gone, what I think is going to happen, I think it would be very funny if Penn State hired Clark Lee. But I think whatever happens when Jerry Kill is out of that program, they go back to being Vanderbilt. That's my bet.
Hmm.
Having watched that guy in the Big Ten, he's just sort of he dragged
I mean,
Minnesota out of real
I just looked
dumpster
it up.
fire.
He's a consultant right now. So I mean, how big of a role does one play as a consultant for a college football team?
So,
I don't know, but
so there's actually some articles on this. So he was head coach of New Mexico State, and he has bouts with seizures. So he had
hmm,
more health problems. So he couldn't be the head coach at New Mexico State anymore. He then, but he still wants to coach football and stuff. And he's been through this like 3 or 4 times. He had to leave Minnesota for the same reason, right when he had them really rolling. And so he got latched onto Vanderbilt, and he's directly responsible for Diego Pavia going to Vanderbilt. So
hmm, wow.
he's kind of and he was like way back in the day. He was a Northern Illinois coach when they were what they used to call a BCS buster. If I had my history right, and then he went to Minnesota and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Any other burning hot takes about real football before we that you would like to save in perpetuity? Oh, is Brian Kelly done at LSU?
I hope, but the buyout's still too big. I think. Um, I think I I see so many parallels between Brian Kelly at LSU and Les Miles at LSU, but without even Miles's, I see more late Miles parallels. Because we had 2007 with Miles, but after that it was just mostly infuriating, particularly after 2011. But I like to me, Brian Kelly, he's gonna win a lot of games. You're not gonna go below 500 in any given year. And you'll get like 8 to 10 wins a year out of him, but it just is reminding me so much of late Les Miles, where it was just infuriating in the biggest moments every time. I don't know if LSU is going to have as much patience with him as they had with Miles, but the buyout's still too big. He's got at least one more year before I think they can really get rid of him. But I think hopefully it's at least trending in that direction. I'm a little tired of him as
So
an LSU fan.
you're not part of the Brian Kelly family, such as it were. Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I was big in year one after he got to the SEC championship because we were not expecting to go to the SEC championship year one. We got clowned on by Georgia, but we were expecting to get clowned on by Georgia. We weren't expecting to be there. I was on board after that. Ever since then, he faked me out a bit with the Clemson win, but then it turns out that Clemson's just dog shit this year too. So um, that doesn't look so great anymore. But almost had me fooled there. But I'm done with Brian Kelly, I think.
So who's your as a fan then? Do you have a favorite coach you want to see come to LSU?
That's tough.
And why is it bingo? Or sorry,
Oh, well, I mean,
why is it Tom Servo?
let's pull in Bingo. Yeah, Bingo would be no, not,
There you go.
Jambo. Yeah,
I mean,
Bingo. I want on the Saints still. Bingo. I want on the Saints still. Let's get Jambo in at LSU.
there you go.
IRL LSU.
I
IRL
mean, I don't know
LSU.
why real teams don't just run ball forward. It work if you just run the
just
ball for
just
7.5 yards a carry, like it wins games. Just do that.
just get the best running back in existence. That's it's simple, easy.
Yeah,
No, but it's that's a tough question. I don't feel like I'm great at evaluating coaches. I know that there are coaches that I don't want. Um,
and other than Matt Rule, which ones are they?
uh, why am I just blanking on names all of a sudden? I don't know. What I would think I'd be interested to see if kind of pipe dream if they managed to get Joe Brady back in, because Joe Brady I think was one of the big architects of the 2019 run with Joe Burrow. He's off in the NFL right now and he's still fairly successful, but there's always that what if of like if Joe Brady came back to be a college head coach at LSU again, could he make the magic happen again? There's that thought. I don't know if that's a good idea. Usually you don't want retreads, but
Yeah,
it's a
you found
thought.
that out with Bo Pelini, I think, a little bit.
Oh god. Oh my god, I cannot believe that we retreaded Bo fucking Pelini. Ugh. That was yeah.
Listen, you get a coach who went six and
That's not
five at
said.
Youngstown State, and you have a chance to get him. You have to sign him. That's just that's the rules.
I will say that on the IRL Saints end, one of the hires I was kind of rooting for was Joe Brady. I was happy with Kellen Moore, and I think Kellen Moore, jury's still out to some extent, but he doesn't have a great roster to work with. But I kind of see some potential with Kellen Moore. I tell you, I really, really, really did not want Mike McCarthy.
Mm.
Everyone's like, "Oh, Mike McCarthy is the front runner for the Saints hire," and I was just like, if it's you know Mike Mike fucking McCarthy, I would just tune out immediately.
In my head, I have like when I think of Kellen Moore, I think of Sean Payton because they're both backup Cowboys quarterbacks who became favorite sons of Jerry Jones, got promoted to offensive coordinator, and then now were then after that head coaches of the Saints. So in my head, like I'm not paying a lot of attention to the Saints, but I just assumed like, oh, Kellen Moore, yeah, that'll work out great. They did it before; it worked great. So just do it again. They just need their Drew Brees, and I don't think it's Spencer Rattler, but I don't know, maybe. Rattler definitely gives me more Aaron Brooks vibes than Brees vibes. I would say that.
Yeah, I mean, I want I want to believe in Spencer Rattler. I like underdogs and fifth round pick, and he really seems like he's trying. I know he kind of had some issues and some personal issues and off the field stuff in college, but he sure seems like he's really given it his all from a very disadvantageous position. And I do like underdogs. I'm a Saints fan after all. Um, but yeah, I don't know if he's the answer. I am really concerned for Tyler Shuck because we have a second rounder who lost out to a fifth rounder from the previous year. And it's like, did we just seriously just waste that pick? I don't know. At the beginning of the season, I was like, oh yeah, let's just go tank for Arch Manning. We can get another quarterback on the Saints named Archie Manning,
Right, right.
Archibald Manning. And but I think Arch's draft stock seems to be sliding. So
There's always the chance it could be a good UDFA pickup and boom like Bear Plow. It's possible.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I was also thinking that because I was thinking going into this that the Saints were an 0-17 risk. The Saints looked terrible, and their roster. I don't think they had done enough on the roster to kind of turn anything around. But they're off the 0-17 watch, but we're still like what 1-6 or something. So, um,
At least you're not the Titans. I
At
think
least we're not the
is,
Titans, or at least we're not the Jets.
well, yeah. That's sort of like the thank God for Mississippi. Thank God for the Jets. Jedi Bob, it's been great to connect and learn more about how you got to be part of the sim, all of the stuff you're helping out with. Um, I think the
Yeah,
question
thanks for
I
having me on.
asked Pierce to wrap everything up when we spoke was, if there was a thing that you would love to see people help out with in the sim, whether it's content or chipping in other ways, is there one thing you would love for folks who've listened this far? Obviously, you enjoy the sim. What would you say would be something that you would love to see people have an interest in helping out a little bit more than they maybe already are?
Huh, that's an interesting question. I think that I think that really the best way to help out with the sim is just to find an area of the sim that you're interested in and are passionate about making better. I think that's kind of the most effective way to do it, is just find what is like, if you're doing something that's, there are a bunch of things that are need that have a lot of need to be done, but if you're not passionate about doing it, you're going to fall off the wagon. You're just going to, let it drop and, forget about it. But if you find something that you're good at and you're passionate about to help out with the sim, I think that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, 'cause we do need more people working on, there are various things that we could do with the interface and the game engine, and a bunch of things to clean up or redesign or fix and revamp. But honestly, I think it's about finding something that you have a vested interest in improving and being like, hey, I want to help make this better. Then, get in there, find a way to help make it better. Also, writing media. We always need people to write media. We have a fair number of media writers, but the more media gets out there, more people can stay engaged, especially in the slower parts like the off season and such. So, yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
Cool, cool. Well, thanks for joining me, and I believe Pierce will be out on bail from his arrest for being involved in a point shaving scheme that rocked Sim NBA for next week, and so everything will be back on schedule. But appreciate anyone who's sat through the show so far. It is now ending, so we will see y'all later.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.